Right, let me get this through quickly, clearly and concisely, unlike what I've done in the 12 other takes that I've done today. Formula 1 has gone into madness, and I'm not just talking about the actual F1, proper F1, or just the game. I mean the whole thing, the whole world of F1. And, well, that's because the whole world has gone into madness as the pandemic that is currently engulfing us with death after death after death that you probably don't want to hear about right now, but I have to bring it up to point out something, has ravished every bit of live entertainment, every bit of, well, anything. There's just been this bit of void within Formula 1 for several months. Then the season started, the game released, and everything was in chaos. The whole idea of Formula 1 being, well, out there racing has been controversial, to say the very least. The fact that Sergio Perez tested positive, as well as others, but apparently he's the first. He's the one that's important, even though others have tested positive within the paddock and they were quickly removed and such and so on, and he was actually the third. Nonetheless, the point is, F1 went into madness because the calendar was... Now, 2 months on, the game has become far out of date, and that's because, well, it was based on a season that just didn't happen. A season that was meant to happen before a pandemic ruined everything for Codemasters. Then Mercedes changed the livery of their car, which was quickly resolved because that's just a livery, and well, the calendar became a bit of a question mark. The calendar itself is, well, I'm looking at it and it's a mess. A complete and utter mess of logistical nightmares if you were looking at it sensibly and logically. But, you know, that's F1 for you. They'll have 2 races in Italy, then go 3 races outside of Italy, then return to Italy, then go to Turkey. However, I have suggested this before in an article, and I want to bring it up today with the current calendar updates and the possible final 17 rounds locked in, because that's what we're getting this year, 17 instead of the proposed 22 that we were told would happen and we got in the game, but didn't actually happen. This 17 race calendar has become a bit of an oddity because it's bringing races that have never been run. It's bringing races that haven't been run in 9 years. It's bringing races that haven't been run in 10 years plus. Let me explain for, well, basically David, who will watch this through and go, the man's a nut job. F1 has decided that, hey, let's go racing in Germany on the Nürburgring, not the Nordschleife, just the GP track. That's fine, yeah, that's great, but that's not in the game. And you would think with the game that's meant to be a simulation, they would be strict about what is actually true and simulation and such and so on, and then people on the internet complain because they're anoraks and they complain not that the fact that the game is out of date because of the calendar or the fact that there are other things within the game that are out of date. No, they complain about the fact that the safety car has been out of date for the last 5 years, which is an odd thing to point out because it's just a car that sometimes is there, sometimes isn't. But yeah, that's the hill to die on, to say this game's bad, even though it's not bad, it's a good game at the heart of it, but has some minor issues. Nonetheless, the calendar has become a bit of play about pieces of feces, as Mugello, never raced on. The Nürburgring hasn't been raced on in about 6 years. Imola hasn't been raced on since 2006. Turkey hasn't been raced on since 2011. Portimao in Portugal has never been raced on by F1 cars. It's all a bit of a mess, not to mention the proposed fact that Bahrain is going to have a double header, but one of the races will be on the outer ring of the track and be the 2010 anniversary thing that they had. I think that's what I'm remembering correctly. They did a race on a different layout of the track, which you can't really do in F1 2020 as far as I know, but nonetheless, the other tracks, Turkey, Imola, Nürburgring, those three have previously been in Formula 1 games created by Codemasters. How do I know? Well, I had a bit of a route around for information on the previous games and what tracks have been used, and it turns out that the tracks were used in both the actual season and within the game's classic mode, I think in 2013, I don't quite remember, but nonetheless, the fact that some of the tracks have previously been used kind of shows a fact that Codemasters would, you would believe so anyway, that they would have some information on this is what the cars would do, this is what this would look like, this is blah 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 blah. I understand the fact that there would be issues with, let's say, sponsors of the actual events, the voiceover of some bits to introduce the tracks, such as happens with the pageantry of F1 when you do the whole, oh look, it's TV, oh, and then you have to do the whole coding thing for on the grid. I'm not saying the games should be updated this week. I'm not saying the games should be updated in the next month to introduce that. I'm not saying that F1 2020 should definitely have this, but in the future it would be nice to have some older tracks as well as the current tracks. And this is where I'm going to slightly annoy Codemasters with my comments. I think it should replace the whole item store that reviewers didn't really know about in the reviews, or at least we weren't given access to the item store on the front page of the game when it released, or when we saw the pre-release bit. Yeah, that was fun to find out after the fact that my review went out. The fact that reviewers had no idea that this item store, this thing that really wasn't active, would be microtransactions that don't provide you with a lot of ways into getting what is locked behind those microtransactions. Yes, that's the words. You can tell I'm a bit annoyed about this because I'm stumbling over my own words, but the fact that you cannot earn, well, you can earn a tiny amount. And this is the thing, you can earn a tiny amount of the currency. And that's fine. You can earn the currency. Good. Can you earn enough of it to equal those who do pay the microtransactions? No, at least not in the experience that I've had. As far as I know, and as far as I've seen and researched, you can only earn about 2,500 of this currency. Now, you can only do that once in the whole 16 levels that you're supposed to upgrade through, and that would get you a hat, a pair of gloves, maybe a car livery, but not really much. And that's what really annoys me about this whole currency thing. The fact that, yes, it is cosmetic. Yes, it is entirely a side project thing. It's just a bit of art. But, and this is quite obviously the bit that annoys me the most, the fact that the liveries, the suits, the gloves, the hats, all of it, that is part of the My Team mode. A fairly integral part, I'll remind you, because, well, the point is the fact that you, as the team boss, get to decide the livery of the car. You get to decide the suits, the badges, the so on, the so forth, and it's all done through these cosmetics. Now, it would be nice if you could just earn all the cosmetics, but you can't. You have to pay the microtransaction fee or whatever the thing is, the VIP nonsense, which is a bit crap. And I'll be honest, I'd prefer to race on Imola instead of, I don't know, getting a different hat, getting that stupid Halloween hat, the helmet thing, the pumpkin thing. I'd rather drive on a track that killed a man. Okay, that's a bit exuberant for your stance against microtransactions, but nonetheless, the point is the fact that, yeah, they're not that important, but they are a part of the game. They are part of what makes part of the game important, and that's what somewhat annoys me. That's what makes this a bit I'd rather drive around the Nürburgring, both layouts, the Nordschleifer and the actual GP track. I'd love to go around the Nordschleifer in a Mercedes, or, you know, more appropriately a Ferrari, because I don't really like Mercedes. But nonetheless, I'd like to go around the Nordschleifer with one of the current cars on that track and see what could happen. I mean, I'd probably die. I'd probably go around the curve that had a penis on it, and I'd go veering off because I'd put my foot down and go for miles. But, you know, that's kind of fun. I mean, if I did it in real life, I'd definitely be dead. I'd be dead, everyone else would be dead, and the planet would just disintegrate from embarrassment that I got to drive an F1 car. But I'd like that. I'd like that more than, ooh, look, you've got a funny helmet. Or, ooh, look, you've got a flag or something. It's... why? Just, I don't get the idea of, oh, I must pay for that cosmetic. Yeah, 15, maybe even 10 years ago, you would never expect to pay for cosmetics because they were part of the bloody game. So why are we expecting to pay now through the nose for something that is just stupid? It's stupid and ancillary. It's nothing of substantial value, so why are you paying for it now instead of, I don't know, it being part of the bloody game? How about instead of ancillary bollocks, we have proper bits of the game? I don't know, like tracks that, I don't know, you might want to race on, that are historical, that maybe killed Ayrton Senna, that maybe prove to be better tracks than some of Herman Tilker's other guff. Vietnam. I'd love to go back round Sepang. I'd love to go back round Sepang because it's much better than Vietnam. Turkey, okay, yeah, I think I'm somewhat interested in that. I have vague memories of Turkey. I remember Korea, I remember India, I remember some other tracks, but I don't have the affinity towards, ooh, look, it's a pumpkin helmet. Oh, aren't I quirky? Aren't I so random? Meanwhile, you're posting memes of some guff that was popular 4 years ago. I just don't get the point. I don't get the point in the cosmetics. I get the point in, here's a track, here's something that's worthwhile, here's something that you'll enjoy, have at it. Not to mention the fact that you can now select which races you race on, or which races you race at in an F1 season in the game. Therefore, you can create your own season that is much like the current season, though there would have to be some jiggery-pokery of the Bahrain doubleheaders and the Austrian doubleheaders, the Great Britain split weekend thing that they've done. There's a lot of boring details in there that really I wouldn't want to go into, but the point here is the fact that in coming years, we don't know if F1 will be back to the normal, as seemingly people want it to instantly be. Yeah, it would be nice if things were back to normal, as it were, but, and this is the sad truth, back to normal isn't really viable in any way, shape or form. It is not appropriate to go back to normal. Even in Russia, which is proposed to have fans and probably will have a lot of cases of COVID-19. And I know you don't want to hear about that, but it will happen. We know it will happen. Of course it'll happen. Anyway, that was my rant that went on far too long. Go away now.